Hi folks. I have made a few videos that deal with issues of resource depletion. From some of the comments on these videos, I can tell that people have a hard time thinking in terms of whole systems. This does not surprise me. Most people don't get exposed to cybernetics, that is, systems theory, and it does not come naturally. Furthermore, our culture seems to encourage people not to think in terms of whole systems. Now, I don't plan to dig too deeply into systems theory here. If you would like to do that, I suggest you check out the work of Gregory Bateson. In particular, you should pick up a copy of Mind and Nature. It not only gives a good primer on the subject, but it has a lot in it that inoculates against sloppy thinking. Instead of diving into systems theory, I would like to discuss a set of concepts from media theorist Marshall McLuhan that elucidates the point I want to make more succinctly. The concept is figure and ground. We can conceptualize the initial images that make up this concept fairly easily. If you have a drawing of some kind, the figure is the person or object in the foreground. The ground is the background or the environment surrounding the figure. Unless you have an incredibly rudimentary picture, the background interacts with the figure in ways that give the figure its character. To some extent, the less this is the case, the more cartoonish and inaccurate the figure is. What does this have to do with technology? When people talk about technology, they have a tendency to only see the figure and not the ground that it exists in. Actually, exists is not the best way to put it. Depends on it might be more accurate. I will look at two examples to explain this. First, the automobile. The car has an association with freedom in our culture, particularly American culture. Somebody hitting the open road, choosing their own path, free to go wherever they like, we associate it with a kind of independence. But like the car commercials that imagine you driving on an empty road, this is a fiction that focuses on the figure and completely ignores the ground. The car is a technology that is entirely dependent on countless systems to keep it on the road. The creation of a car itself depends on infrastructure, supply chains, and manufacturing processes that stretch across the globe. From the raw materials extracted from the earth that make it up, to the different parts that are assembled and shipped to multiple factories before it is finally assembled and transported to market. This is just to manufacture the car itself. It does not include all the other things a car needs to operate. It does not include the roads and bridges that need to be maintained and for which tax dollars must be allotted. It does not include the fuel that needs to be extracted, refined, and transported around the globe, and the logistics and infrastructure involved in doing this in a way that keeps gas in everyone's tank. It does not include the gas stations, which need to be widespread enough that you can drive anywhere, confident that you will be able to refuel before running out of gas. It does not include the laws that are passed to maintain and govern the roadways, or a host of other public and private enterprises like insurance, which we need in order to drive. Nor does it account for all the space cars take up when it comes to parking. If you want to associate cars with independence, have at it, but that does not seem accurate. When most people think of cars, they don't think of these things. They don't even see them. They just see the car. They see the figure, not the ground. They see the end product. They don't see all the things that make it possible. Nor do most people know how much the public resisted car culture when the corporations foisted it upon us. Only through a decades-long coordinated campaign did they make cars the standard way of getting around. This included lobbying, public relations, and urban planning. In some cases, car companies bought up streetcars just to take the competition out of business, which is actually the plot of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Come on. Nobody's gonna drive this lousy freeway when they can take the red car for a nickel.
Oh, they'll drive. They'll have to. You see, I bought the red car so I could dismantle it.
This matters because when we talk about the viability of a technology, we need to think about it in terms of the entire ecosystem it exists in, not just as an isolated product, which is how advertising wants us to look at it. I will elaborate on this in a bit, but I want to talk about my second example. I see people treat computers and smartphones the same way. They might know on some level that this technology depends on lots of others, but they often forget this. This myopia seems even more intense than it does with cars. Something about the admittedly wondrous ability of these technologies makes us forget how they come to us in the first place. The fact that you can fit this thing in your pocket makes it easy to forget how much work and energy goes into it, even if you are well informed on the subject. The smartphone is an even more dependent technology than the car. Of course, like a car, a smartphone depends on resource extraction, manufacturing processes, supply chains, and infrastructure in order to manufacture it. Though much smaller than a car, the processes are more specialized and are therefore also incredibly resource intensive. We don't think about this, nor do we think about the amount of energy it takes to power our phones. More importantly, a smartphone by itself is almost useless. It needs cell towers and/or broadband networks. It needs the internet itself, which relies on sprawling infrastructure. This includes server farms, each of which uses as much electricity as a small city and every day sees new hardware come in to replace old hardware that heads to a dump. But we don't see this. We don't see the ground. We just see the figure. We just get online and go on with our business. This concept is incredibly important when trying to understand any technology, but it has come up lately when discussing renewable energy. Specifically, when comparing the efficiency, cost, and feasibility of different technologies. In comments on a recent video about Elon Musk, some folks argued with me about the efficiency of different technologies. I had one person claim that photovoltaic panels, the solar panels that generate electricity, were superior to the solar water heaters I had advocated because photovoltaics could be made to heat water as well via electricity. Leaving aside the fact that these technologies are used for different things, there's two problems with this. First, it ignores the fact that it takes a lot more resources to create the materials needed for solar panels than it takes to create a solar water heating system. Solar panels currently require blast furnaces and clean rooms to make them. Barring some kind of breakthrough, they probably will for the foreseeable future. The blast furnaces require finite fossil fuels which spew carbon. The entire process is rather complex and often happens in more than one place. So right off the bat, they require more energy and resources to build than what is essentially a water tank painted black. We see this reflected in the higher cost of solar panels compared to solar water heating systems. And if you are not tied to the grid, you need a storage system, which increases the cost in terms of resources and how much cash you need to shell out. The second problem might appear somewhat tangential, but I think it is relevant enough that I will mention it. Saying you can use the electricity from photovoltaic panels to heat water ignores a basic fact about energy, which is the raison d'etre behind solar heating. When you convert, transmit, store, or retrieve energy you have stored, you lose some of it in the process, usually in the form of heat. So when you convert sunlight to electricity, you lose some energy in the process. If you convert that electricity back to heat, you will lose some. To say nothing of the energy you will lose when it gets stored and retrieved from a battery. Solar water heaters don't have this problem. They store heat in water tanks. No loss during conversion. Though they are, of course, subject to the laws of thermodynamics. They also require a lot less energy and resources to create, making them much cheaper, whereas PV setups can be a lot more expensive. Another commenter on the Elon Musk video said that subways are more efficient and cost-effective than streetcars. If you could reduce the cost of digging the tunnels, as Elon Musk claims he can do.
Yeah, and if a frog had wings, it wouldn't bump his ass when he hopped.
Even if you could reduce the cost, you could not eliminate the cost. So creating and maintaining an underground rail system will always cost more than an above-ground one. So why do I bring this up, aside from to vent about comments on my other videos? I bring all this up to help people think past the figure when they talk about technology and start to see the ground. If we want to create more efficient technologies, we can't just look at the figure, the shiny new toy in the advertisement. we need to actually ask about the system it fits into. I find this an especially important thing to keep in mind when we talk about automation. I hear a fair bit of talk on the left about fully automated luxury communism. As much as this appeals to me, I don't think we can fully automate our economy. Why? Well, as I have stated in this video, thinking we can automate everything focuses on the figure but ignores the ground. Let's take two concrete examples so you understand what I mean. Full automation would require two technologies from science fiction. Robots capable of performing the same tasks as humans at the same level of competency, and some kind of Star Trek style replicator or 3D printer. Let's start with the robots. People once thought we could have robot maids doing all our housework. This one, of course, did not pan out, but I think some people still find this feasible. Now, we did get robots in our homes. They just don't look like Rosie from the Jetsons. We have automated devices that wash our clothes and our dishes. We have machines that assist in preparing our food for us. More recently, we have a machine that vacuums. But a machine that has the intelligence and fine motor skills to perform the tasks a human performs seems unlikely. Perhaps we could achieve it, but even if we could, it would take a tremendous amount of energy and resources to produce. Suggesting we manufacture and run these at a time when we are trying to figure out ways to make renewables run our already energy-hungry system does not make much sense. It would be easier to simply clean your own house than to manufacture, power, and maintain a machine to do it, which you would have more time to do if you were not being run ragged by capitalism's demand that you work 40+ hours a week, especially since so many jobs don't give much benefit to society. The second technology I want to question is 3D printing. I find all discussions of this technology helplessly shaded by dreams of the Star Trek replicator, a machine that can produce anything you want with the push of a button. While I think the type of CAD machines people have in mind when they bring up 3D printers have their use, the talk around these things seems more fantasy than hard science fiction. Most discussions of 3D printers are all figure and no ground. Talk of 3D printing too often ignores the complexity of manufacturing processes. 3D printers print in one material when many of the things we use contain scores of different materials that must then be assembled. Too often when people talk of 3D printers, they do so in a way that takes the raw supply of materials feeding them for granted, just as they neglect the role humans play in even the most automated processes. Even Elon Musk had to admit the limits of automation he has bumped up against while building his Teslas. Again, don't get me wrong. CAD machines and automated manufacturing processes are useful, and I think we can utilize them better than we do now, especially if we can do so in a way that can make manufacturing more efficient and localized. But too often, talk of 3D printers misses the ground and focuses on the figure. So, how do we address the limits of automation? Well, we can certainly still automate a lot of rote mental and physical labor, but we should also look at doing more things with human labor, as in many cases it simply requires less energy and resources. This need not result in drudgery if we distribute the work properly. This topic requires an entire other video to do it justice. But suffice to say that much work people currently do under capitalism is not necessary and in fact wasteful. If people did not need to work producing and selling things nobody needs in order to earn a paycheck, this would free up enough people to work providing goods and services we actually need. It would free up enough people that we could have a much shorter work week and work day. I find the idea of a 4-hour work day and a 4-day work week attainable. If you don't think we could achieve this, consider the abundance we currently produce, even with so many people working in fields that really don't produce anything. But again, this is an argument I will make more in depth in the future. For now, I want to simply suggest that instead of looking to technology to deliver everything to us, we should seek ways to use our information networks to organize this kind of system. Thanks for watching, folks. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you really like what I do, please support me on Patreon or pick up a tarot t-shirt. It is how I am able to keep this channel going. I'll have some premium content available soon for patrons at the Rebel level and up. That's the $5 a month tier. I will be talking about psychedelics and, with a little luck, interview some leftist media folks on the role they have played in their lives. I'm also looking to have some guests to talk about kinky sex stuff. I think you will enjoy it, and I hope you will check it out. This has been Rebel Base, and remember, all generalizations are stupid, so never speak in absolutes. Thanks.